From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandy
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, groundbreaking football-only facility. It's happening. The Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week, and Corey Clark gives us 17 good minutes on the World Cup. Kidding. Michael Langston's going to break down recruiting, but Corey will talk about the World Cup too, I'm sure, at some point. I'd like to talk about it. We could all talk about it over cold beers at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, the presenting sponsor of Warchant's Wake Up Warchant, which you can hear right here on your Apple device or your mobile device, whatever it is, or maybe even your laptop or PC. However you roll when you listen to the show, we appreciate it. You should head over to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Daily lunch specials, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Monday, we have Victory Burgers. Go check it out. You get a side dish, you get curly fries, straight fries, side salads. World's your proverbial oyster over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Play some billiards, shoot some darts, anything you want. Check them on out. Always pull out that phone. Don't forget, camera app it, hit the barcode, takes you right to the website, the QR code, rather. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Again, thumbs up, like, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And the website as well. You could know about all the stuff that Michael Langston's going to break down later on the show, hours in advance of hearing this, if you're a subscriber to Warchant.com. And some columns from Corey, Ira, throughout the weeks. Corey, how are you, friend?
I'm good. A little frustrated with my headphone situation of my own doing, of my own making before we started this show. But I'm going to try to rally. I'm going to try to bounce back. You guys don't need to know what goes on in the weeds, but it was a very frustrating last 20 minutes. But here we are. I'm in Tallahassee. Brought Brady down for a few days.
That's right. All right.
So we're just going to, he gets to. We want to make it a tradition that he's always here on National Signing Day.
Okay, I like it.
That's actually not true until he has his own. Where he's putting on the hat. I want him to see how the other half lives. And then, man, so it's a big week. You got, the portal's still wide open, coming in, going, and then the National Signing Day is on Wednesday. And like you said, Langston's going to be talking about all the happenings this weekend because it was a big weekend for them over at Moore Center.
Huge. So, yeah, I'll be on the lookout or the listen out for that later on the show. It's always in the show notes, item description.
Shout out to Ira, by the way.
My gosh, that guy.
Crushing the recruiting stories. I want to, pull him aside and be like, don't we have other people for that? But, hey, he crushes them. I read the stories. He did a knockout job. He did a great job with them. And I hope everybody's on the site getting all the updates because they're coming fast and furious.
So, portal-wise, indeed, it is open. The early signing period starts on Wednesday. We'll probably have a live show with Michael on Tuesday, and then we'll have some sort of live coverage on YouTube with Tom Lang and Michael and myself. Because the team practices on Monday, later today, they return to practice in Tallahassee, getting ready for the bowl game against Oklahoma, and then Wednesday as well. And then we get Norvell later on the afternoon to talk about the recruiting class. So, lots going on this week. Hope you all are ready to jump back into it with us. And the weekend was great, Corey, because the weather was awesome for the ceremonial groundbreaking over at the Al Dunlap practice facility, which is now going to be called, the Al Dunlap Galactic Headquarters for Florida State Football Excellence or something.
Right.
But it's finally happening, everybody. That football-only facility, which will take 18 to 24 months to complete. They did the ceremonial groundbreaking. President was there, Richard McCullough. We had everybody. Michael Alford, the athletics director, Stephen Ponder, CEO of Seminole Boosters. Eric Carr was up there representing the Dunlap family. Mike Norvell with a spirited speech, which I'm sure most of you listened to. What did you think about when Norvell taps into Reverend Mike? I'll let you know. I was there. I felt a little bit, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but I was like, man, he's really going for it. This feels a little bit weird. And I kind of got a little bit, I looked like I was uncomfortable, but I looked around and everybody was just in awe. So it was just a me thing. I think everybody else loved it, but I was like, wow, man, Mike.
I don't think we can judge the rest of humanity by your reactions.
Well, I was comparing me to the rest of everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're your own entity.
Yeah,
you're an anomaly, and I mean that in a good way. I don't think you represent how most people feel. I think you have a different view. I think we both do. All of us do, I guess. But
we're all snowflakes.
We are all snowflakes, but your snowflake is a little
Fancier?
I don't know how to. Less crystal.
Oh, okay. Nebulous. More nebulous.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Less defined. It's hard to define you.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, I get it because I watched it too. But he's not talking to us, right? He's talking to the people that could keep giving money to this university, that he wants to keep giving money to this university. He's not just talking to the people that are sitting there, because Lord knows they wanted to keep that thing pretty private. So there were some very important people there, but he's talking to everybody else and basically saying, like, basically trying to strike when the iron is red hot. And I got that impression. But yeah, I could understand how maybe you might view it. I don't even know if cynically is the right term, but he's not aiming at us. He's aiming at the people
right.
They're going to need, because it's what it represents, right? Because they're breaking ground on what is it, 50, 60, 100, I don't know how much
$100 million.
$100 million. They're breaking ground on that. But that faucet needs to be on for the rest of time.
It does.
When you're talking about college football, right?
Yeah, yep.
Like, that faucet has to be on for the rest of the time. So he wants to make people understand how important it is to keep up with everyone else, and why it's so important to have nice things for the football program and have nice things for the football players. I will say this. I haven't been to many groundbreakings in my life. I think maybe 2. But wouldn't it be better if they were actually like up on caterpillars and actually get to work?
Like the famous skyscraper lunch photo that was a photo op. It was staged.
Correct.
Like that.
But this wouldn't be staged.
Right.
This would actually be the people that were there holding the shovels. They're actually on caterpillars, and they put in an hour's worth of work. What are you waiting on? Guys, we've been waiting, 10 years for this? Get
Not
to work.
that
We
long.
don't need photo ops. I feel like Jimbo was talking about this 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And here we are. We made it. There weren't arguments. I had conversations with Ira and Jeff about, in this day and age, the importance of something like this.
Right.
Like, wouldn't that $100 million be better spent?
Player acquisition, player retention,
and coach retention,
and
coach acquisition. But this is a necessary. In they didn't disagree necessarily, but this is something that you almost have to have just to be on the same level as the people you're competing against. Then you're gonna have to turn on another faucet, or maybe this faucet,
it's a different
turn
faucet.
it on to full blast.
The people that were there, man, they love this program on a different level.
Correct.
I don't want to say it like in that fashion, but like they want to invest in something that is just not so much brick and mortar, but like it's always going to be there. It's just something that's going to provide such stability to this university and to this football program. Man, players, coach are going to come and go, and we know a little bit more about the portal now, so you probably feel a little bit more better when you're donating or gifting money to collectives that are going after guys in the portal, because like, all right, we know that kid. We saw what he can do. I feel good about giving you $80,000 to help out the cause with that. But everything else has been a crapshoot since the beginning of time when it comes to college athletics, like giving money to this coach or to this recruit. But man, when you have a facility like that, and it's just going to be just an absolute, I don't want to call it a game changer, but man, it shows the nation that in this day and age where the playoff's going to expand, realignment is nowhere near over, that, man, this institution is always going to invest in football. And if you're going to create some sort of super league and you don't have this program in it, you're doing it wrong. So I think there's so much involved in it. It's more than just keeping up with the Joneses. But I'm glad to see it, man.
It does show an investment, and it was a long time coming. I don't know. Did they have a plan? Have they talked about a plan? Because you were there. I don't know how much was said about what they think it'll be. 18 to 24 months. It should be, by the time the second season of the playoffs, the first season of the playoffs, it should be done. Like, it should be done middle of 2024, maybe end of 2024.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
correct.
So that's encouraging. Because look, when you look around, the people you're competing against, they have them, are building them themselves. And, I just think I questioned it when Jimbo brought it up at the time. It was funny. I remember this specifically. It was maybe the 2015 or the 2016 ACC, the thing in Amelia Island.
Yeah.
whatever that's called. It's the ACC
meetings.
spring meetings.
Just ACC meetings, I think they call it.
Yeah, so I remember writing it. I remember like that was the push that year where Jimbo was talking about the football only facility. And I was the columnist of the Democrat at the time, and I kind of made fun of him. Like, oh, here we go. I thought the IPF was the thing that mattered most. The IPF, the paint isn't even dry on it yet. And now you're talking about building something else for another $50 or $75 million. And then I can't remember, somebody in the department, and they didn't call me to like rip me. They called me to explain the situation. And like, look, man, Purdue has one. Northwestern has one. All of these schools have them. Don't you it's hard. You can't be the one of the 8 Power 5 schools in the country that doesn't have your own football facility. And that's where it's going. That everybody's going to get one, and they were right. And I actually wrote as much afterwards when I found out how many other schools had them. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. You're going to need something like this. I think it's outlandish. I think it's dumb. But, you got to spend all this money on something. So these schools are building state-of-the-art. They look like because I've been lucky enough to be like in the Falcons practice facility for like
Flowery
press
Branch.
Conferences and stuff.
Right? Flowery
Yeah,
Branch?
Flowery Branch. And that's what, it's not as big as that thing is, because that thing is like a...
150,000 square feet? Does that sound about right, or is that too large?
For what, the Flowery Branch?
Well, that's what Florida State is going to be.
Oh, no, this is bigger than that. This is like its own office building, like its own Nakatomi Plaza.
Right.
But it's...
Tis the season.
Correct. Yeah, all our favorite Christmas movies. So, but that's when I was in that building. That's what all these things are going to become. They are becoming these huge, almost like they look like the college of football, like the college of business, the business school. That's what these facilities look like, and that's what this is going to be. And there's going to be a lot. You have to put a lot of money into it because it's bringing in a lot of money, and it matters. So yeah, man, it was kind of anticlimactic because it's like you can't. It's been so long, and like we're now in the age of the portal in NIL, where it doesn't seem like that big a game changer in recruiting because you can flat out pay players now. But I just think for the overall health of the program, like you were saying, for the optics of the health of the program, it'll be a really nice thing to have.
And I think I look at it being more important than you do. This is what makes the show good, that we kind of disagree on some things, but we're civil about it. But I really think that these kids obviously have their own calculus they're factoring in their head about where they want to pick a school, and money is near the top of it, if not the top sort of factor for it. But I think when you're debating between Alabama and LSU and Georgia and then Florida State, and you know that Alabama and LSU and Georgia have this football palace where when you're not in class, which you might actually be, all your classes might be online, you'll just do them in a computer lab at the football facility, and you're not sleeping, man, you're going to be hanging out there. You're going to get your hair cut there. You and your friends are going to hang out, and you're going to have your meals there. Like that's part of the sort of formula. Now, if Florida State gives you, $100,000 more than Georgia, all right, whatever. I can walk across Pensacola Street. I can live with that. That's fine. But when you start getting into the margins of things, I do think that kind of goes into your when these kids want to see their academic sort of presentation. And we sort of gloss over that too. There's a lot of things that go into the decision for these guys. It's like buying a house, man. It's, does the kitchen look nice? Does it have a nice backyard? Like, I can live without it having one of those things, but you don't want it to be missing two of it. And then certain things, well, I like both houses the same, but this one had that. You don't want to give recruits an excuse not to choose your school.
Well said. And if it's 50-50, if it's 45-55, but you don't have something like that, and Clemson has this awesome football place that they go and hang out, their mansion, where they get to play laser tag and pretend to be firemen or whatever they do. It can be important. So absolutely, I do think now in 2022 it is important. And I would say this real quick, not to push back too much, but I don't think it matters all that much about. I don't think the money is the end all be all. I think it probably is with super duper 5-star recruits or super duper 5-star transfers. But I think the vast majority of college football players in this country are all within the same pay scale. Fair. I'm not going to pretend to know what that is, whether it's between 10,000 and 50,000 or 25 and 100. I don't know. But your 3 stars and 4 stars, They're not bringing in $250,000. This is not so. Like I'm saying, so if Miami's offering you $40,000 and Florida State's offering you $31,000, well, you're not going to pick Miami because of the extra $9,000, because $9,000 is all the amount of fans you're going to see at the games if you go there. Like that, I think that matters more than that extra $9,000. That I guess that's my point. But yes, if you're doubling somebody's offer, or chances to make money, however we word it in this weird day that we live in. That's a big deal. But yeah, so that all of that stuff matters. There was the recruit. Is his last name Otto, the big lineman? Yeah.
Oh man, go listen to his interview, everybody. Senator Otto.
But he talked about the Florida State Film School and how that's really important to him. Like, because he wants to get into film. I don't know if he's going to be an actor. It sounds like he could be, or a director, or whatever he wants to do. But the film school mattered to him. Like, that stuff matters to him. It's not all just about, hey, there's an extra comma. I got 2 commas in this offer. I got 1 comma in this offer, this financial offer you're giving me. It can be something like film school or football college, your football college. Whatever it is, you just need to give them you have to give them every reason to say yes, and you don't want to give them an excuse to say no. I don't know how many kids over the years have said no to Florida State because of a football mansion, but I know not having one when you're recruiting against other teams that do is certainly not an advantage. I don't know how big a disadvantage it is, but it's certainly not an advantage, and you're looking for advantages.
And it is officially going to be called the Albert J. and Judith A. Dunlap Football Center.
Okay.
I think I might just call it the DFC,
okay.
Dunlap Football Center.
How about the lap? Can you just call it the lap?
All right, yeah. All right, I'm down with the lap. I like that. By the way, shout out, not going to call their name out, but there were these huge banners at the event, and it had everyone's name in it that donated. There's different tiers. One of the pillars of the show, he was on there. So shout out to that guy.
Doing well.
Doing real.
I love the people that I can't believe they're quit sending the money to them. Send it to us. Like, man, some of these people they are okay. Yeah. They are okay.
Multiple fingers and multiple pots. Making things happen for this program. It's incredible.
Yeah, man, and making everybody feel good. Spreading the joy around, spreading the wealth. It's good. Yeah, it's a good time. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Because it's all so unique because you're trying to get these high school kids to sign 3 days from now, and I think there's still a few they're in on, a few they're not sure about. Yeah. So do you tell the kids that are coming in the portal, if they've said they want to come, do you tell them to wait until Thursday, or tell them to wait until Wednesday afternoon to announce? Wait till the kids send his fax in. Like, I wonder how that works with the coaches and the players.
Can we ask him that after practice today? Like, I wanted to ask him that last week, Mike Norvell, about, like, is there a science, like an art almost, to recruiting these things concurrently now? Because, like, the portal was always open, but now you only have that 45-day window, and it's running alongside of you trying to get these high school kids to commit. So I guess what you're saying is, like, if you're a transfer, you don't want them to commit until, but if the high school kids
No, I'm saying if you're trying to get a high school defensive end, or let's say you're trying to get a high school cornerback, and this kid from Virginia
Fentrell
told you on
Cypress.
Sunday,
yes.
hey man, I'm coming. And he's the number 1 recruit in the portal. Right. He's number 1 in the portal. Would you tell him, like, hey, we don't want to scare off this kid from wherever, Fort Lauderdale, that we really think we got a shot at, and if you come, it might look like the defensive secondary is too loaded, so he might think about, like, maybe hold off until Wednesday afternoon. Now, here's the thing.
That's a good question, but that also
he would never answer it.
Right,
you can't answer that. If they do that, you wouldn't answer it, because then it makes you look duplicitous and it makes you look sneaky. So you don't want to do that either way. But there's got to be, because it's just such an odd time to be a coach and trying to get kids to announce they're coming, because you're going to get an 18-year-old and you're going to get a 22-year-old. Sometimes at the same position. And, it's odd that they would mix and mingle and scare each other off, but they could.
I think it goes back to the whole, it's not one factor thing, right? Like, I don't think it's not going to scare the player away, the young high school kid, that this transfer is coming. Like, oh, he's going to knock me down the depth chart. Now I can't play my freshman year. Playing time, I think, is not nearly as important as it once was, or it's not marketed to these players as much as it used to be. But I would think that you would take that, man, because it just the amount of buzz it would create, continue to give you momentum if you have this kid. Like if that Fentrell Cypress kid walked off campus.
That's a bad example. You would never tell him to wait because
Right.
you'd be worried that somebody else would sneak in. He's like, no, I'm not waiting for Joe Smith in Fort Lauderdale. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
I'm
But
more
also-
important than he is.
Yeah.
But I just thought like maybe there could be other examples with lesser thought of portal
Right.
guys. Like, hey man, we really want you to be here, but let us see if we get this,
Good
whoever,
problem, though.
the running back that's committed to Texas.
College blue blood problems or first world problems is when you're encountering this sort of quandary.
Amen.
So we think we're back. We're back.
The clutch shot, the biggest hit. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Player of the week.
You heard the man. It's time for the Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. I'm going to go into the professional ranks. It was a historic game for the Vikings where they overcame the largest deficit in NFL history. And our guy, Dalvin Cook, 95 yards on the ground, 95 yards through the air catching. 64-yard touchdown that's just indescribably good. Catch and run where he pretty much bumbles pinballs from 15 yards away in the last part of the run to cross into the end zone, and then also gets the 2-point conversion to tie the game for Minnesota, push it to overtime, then take down the Colts, which they were up, 33-0 going into halftime, the Colts?
Correct.
And they lost.
Yes.
Man, really wish it was going to work for Jeff Saturday, but it's not going to work for Jeff Saturday. But it worked for Dalvin Cook. Indescribably great run from an indescribably great player. He's my pick.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the professional ranks, and I'm going to go with Lionel Messi.
Oh.
God, I'm doing it, gang. I'm doing it. Look, man, I can't imagine what it's like to have the burden of a country's hopes on your shoulders. Like, you remember Steph Curry crying after these finals the last year because he played so well without Kevin Durant, and he was finally going to win Finals MVP. And it's like, man, even Steph Curry, who's one of the 10 greatest players of all time, felt this insurmountable weight on him because of people had questions about him and how good was he really. I can't imagine what it was like for Messi to be the best player in the world, or arguably, I don't know whose side anybody's on, but he's up there and never having won a World Cup, and for him to have that to have that whole tournament, then to have 2 goals in the final in the one of the most incredible sporting events I've ever watched, and then to see like his teammates crying, to see the people I was with crying, to know that other friends I have were crying. It's just it's a really remarkable sporting event, and for the best player in the world and one of the best that's ever lived, I guess arguably he is the best that's ever lived. For him to have that moment, just was really neat to see as a sports fan. So I'm giving it to him. I can't imagine he's ever been given a higher honor than being the Wake Up Warchant Indescribably Good Player of the Week. Zaxby's Indescribably Good Player of the Week. But Messi, you did it, man. I guess that kind of means Messi is a sponsor of Zaxby's now.
Yeah. I think Florida State offered him to be a kicker, but they ended up taking Gary Sismesa instead.
Ooh,
so that's where
too bad.
That's where the Lionel Messi factors into an FSU podcast.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
I don't know. Lionel Messi, Dalvin Cook are Zaxby's Indescribably Good Players of the Week. All right, as advertised, we got recruiting analyst Michael Langston here on Wake Up Warchant, breaking things down from a busy, busy weekend. Michael, how busy of a weekend was it for you?
Pretty active. It was nonstop. It just never slows down, it seems. But just a wild day.
That's what happens, man. That's what happens when you're covering a possible 10-win team, man. Everyone's excited. All right, let's get to it then, man. Let's start off with Fentrell Cypress, obviously, the number 1 prospect in the transfer portal, according to On3, cornerback out of Virginia. The fact that Florida State got him on campus this quickly, I think first. Is this the first place he's visited?
He visited UCLA first. That
Okay.
was his first official visit, and then FSU was the other visit. I don't think he's taken any other officials that I know of.
All right, what was your impressions after talking to him after his visit?
Yeah, I think the big thing that you heard a lot is that he could see himself there. He said that like 5 times during the interview. I think a few times with the video that I think Ira put up about his visit, and I think that was one of the takeaways too. He understands what the history of what FSU DBs are, what their strong history, and also just the way their DBs are utilized and really studying kind of the things they do, but also how that interacts with what he does. So I think he really liked the fact that there was a connection there, and I think that played in the part of why he said, several times of, the talk about, I could see myself here. It wasn't just football related. It was like stuff outside of football that he loved the culture, he loved the family, and the connection he had with the coaches and even some of the players that were there.
Who else is in the mix for him? Is it just UC? Is it a two-team race at this point, or who else should we be concerned with?
Well, I asked him, if he had any other teams besides FSU and and UCLA, and he said he didn't really list it, but then he indicated like how he gave the indication without saying it that he could decide sooner than later. That was kind of the way I took it. Basically, he was going to go back home and think things over, and then it sounded like there could be a decision coming. He didn't really say, "Hey, I'm going to do it soon." It's just the wording of stuff he said. I think Alabama and Georgia have also been mentioned. Ohio State, those teams have been mentioned, and certainly this favors FSU's recruitment with him if it's sooner than later. I think that's certainly a plus. If we hear something like, Deuce come out and say, "Hey, I'm going to decide on next Wednesday," that's, I think, a decent sign for FSU, because I don't think they want this thing going long. I think they want to capitalize on the visit and what they did this weekend, and I think that will be kind of telling somewhat if he does it like before January.
John Campbell, 6'5", 320. He started at left tackle every game for Miami, it looks like, here according to Pro Football Focus.
Yeah.
I know you said that interior is more of the sort of point of emphasis for the staff right now. Campbell did not grade all that greatly on PFF, 59.5. He also graded out 59.5 in 2020. Is this a depth guy, or do you think there's something there that maybe Alex Atkins and the staff thinks they can unlock, and there's something special possibly?
I mean, it reminds me a lot of kind of the way they recruited Jazz Turrentine. It has the same feel to that, where this isn't an impact starter, but it is a guy that, if a guy gets hurt or if you need to plug him in, do you feel comfortable that he's played long enough, that he has a lot of experience? And that was kind of what I was alluding to in our recruiting chat. If they did go out there to tackle, would be somebody like similar to John, where he's not going to blow the doors off, but you don't need somebody to blow the doors off. You just need depth there that you can lean on. They're pretty high on Daughtry Richardson. They're really high on Julian Armel. We've heard that a lot. So we know they're very high on the young guys, but to have that competition and depth, for me, it's a depth guy more than it is an instant impact guy. And I think this guy kind of fits. If they were going to take a tackle, he kind of fits everything you do, because you got Robert Scott on one side. So, and I think you feel pretty good about some of the guys, or they feel pretty good about the guys they have. So I think this is more, a jazz type of recruitment to me, where you're looking for just a fit, that a guy that has experience that's productive.
Yeah, they got Bless at tackle. We saw what happened. He went out. Jazz stepped right in. So this seems to probably be kind of an insurance policy, as you mentioned.
Right.
Oh, let's wrap up on a couple more of these transfer guys before we start talking about kids from high school. A lot of guys from high school on campus that are important to talk about. But all this is over the Premier Recruiting Board. Everybody can check it all out. You'll be able to read this hours ago if you remember. It's only $10 for a whole year. What are you waiting for? Trenches, more trenches. How about Casey Roddick, Braden Fiske? Let's, I guess, keep with the offensive line. Casey Roddick, how real is he right now, you think, for the staff?
I think it's realistic. I wouldn't totally count out Colorado. That's where he's from, and that's a school he's likely transferring from. I'd say it's more likely he leaves than he stays. And I got the impression of people I talked to that knew, around Casey that knew him, that this was the best visit he's taken so far. He's also visited NC State, I think, last weekend, so they are a factor as well. I think he loves just the connection, as most guys do, with Alex Atkins on the visit. And I think he also likes just, I think he was very intrigued and excited about, the breaking the ground, even though it doesn't really impact him because you're talking about a one-year guy. But it tells you direction and how serious they're taking the program, that they're taking steps to improve it all the time. So I think he liked that. And then I think he also liked just what their O-line room is like and the development of what they have inside the O-line room, that he knows if he came to Florida State, I don't have to worry about that. I mean, this guy has consistently done that since he's been here. So I think those are some things that he liked. Now, where they sit totally as far as the pecking order, I don't know, but that's kind of the vibe I got is, definitely a visit that jumped out to him the most, I think, so far that he's taken.
RODDICK'S 6'4", 305 interior lineman. Started at right tackle one game, but otherwise held down the left guard spot for the Buffaloes this past season, graded out at 65.3 on Pro Football Focus. I don't know if it's Fiske or Fiske, but Braden, our guy from Western Michigan, he was on arm in a sling, but he was still drinking his coffee. Shout out to him. DeLuna, I'm sure. Graded out at 86.3. What's it about his game, and what's it about him you think that has made the staff gravitate to him, and what do you think he took away from his visit here in Tallahassee?
I think, first of all, on the shoulder, I've heard he had shoulder surgery, which is basically to clean out some stuff. He did it last year from what I was told. So it's not something serious for people that will worry with him coming around the sling. That's what I was told as far as that. And FSU has no concerns over that. I think the thing that they love about this cat is just, man, he is extremely athletic for a defensive tackle. He really gets off blocks quick and fast, and we know how Odell likes those guys. He likes his defensive tackles to have really good pass rushing skills, and I think Brandon fits that. I think they love that, and I think he also likes just go back to the development thing of what FSU's done with Fabian Lovett. These other several guys that they've already had inside the program, and some of them are high school, some of them are guys that they got from the transfer portal, and I think he sees the type of development that happens with FSU, and I think that certainly jumped out to him. And then, of course, the culture, we see that all the time with visits that, kids, recruits see just the way FSU does things. I still think, for me, I mean, he's taking a visit to USC as I talk on the pod with you right now. Okay. I think that's wrapping up maybe today, and then he'll leave on Monday, and I'm supposed to talk to him then. But I just feel like, based on what those two teams do, like Notre Dame and FSU, those are still, for me, the two teams that ultimately probably is going to come down to. Obviously, Notre Dame would have the advantage with location. Certainly, it'd be closer to home. But I think the big deal around Brendan has been if the fit is better, the comfort is better. I don't think location is like the ultimate deciding thing. So right now it's a wait and see on what I want to hear what Brandon has to say about the visit. But I think certainly they did everything. I think FSU accomplished everything they wanted to in selling their product. And I was told, regardless if Lovett comes back or not, they're going to take this kid. So that tells you just how hard the push is. And FSU's been probably the team that's on him the longest. So right when he jumped in there, they were all over this guy. So it tells you, no matter what, you're going to take the guy. It tells you that, how high they are of him having a special skill that they feel like they covet and have to have on this defensive line.
Conrad Hussey, Edwin Joseph, updates over on the PRB. Let me get this one from you, though, second to last one. Andy Jean, Gators commit. Sure, he didn't like what he saw on the screen Saturday in Vegas from his boys in blue and orange. What do you think he felt about his time in Tallahassee this past weekend?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you're officially visiting, an arch rival, and your team you're committed to is playing on field on that Friday. I thought that was kind of interesting. And this thing has kind of been building for a while with Gene and FSU because, the start of the year, I think he visited really early in the spring, and I don't think there was really much hope or thought, or even from the Gator side, that there was much, to worry about. And then as the season went on, he came to the Florida game, obviously watched FSU win that game. Great atmosphere. He seemed to be really impressed with what he saw from the FSU receivers. And then, too, came back for this official visit. And, a lot of people looked at, even the Florida side going into that weekend, they were like, yeah, we still feel confident. We're not that concerned. Then this morning, that confidence started to sway a little bit where, FSU was, having some momentum going in this, and they were like, the impression I got was the Gator coaches are, kind of nervous on this one because, I don't think they're like, hey, we're trailing now, but I think it's right up there near 50-50 that, this could happen, and, this is this one's a concern because of, I think too, when you look at what FSU's receivers have done and their offense has done, and then you have Jordan Travis coming back next year. Florida doesn't know who their quarterback's going to be next year, so how are you going to know what the fit is going to be even when you get there early? So I think there's a lot more stable situation. Thought I'd never say that with the FSU offense and with Andy Jean, and I think he sees that, and I think he's very comfortable around a lot of these players. And Hakeem Williams spent a lot of time with him. Told me that early this morning that when he officially visited, that he was on him hard, and he felt pretty good about kind of how the visit matriculated into with all the things that happened, and so certainly FSU is now a threat. Didn't think I'd say that after this visit. I was just expecting to get up with him. It's like, okay, good visit, but based on the intel I was getting from the Florida side, you felt like that, but certainly they made a move, so that's one we're going to have to keep an eye on going into Wednesday.
Andy Jean, 6'1", 180 receiver from Northwestern High in Miami. Just, it seems a little bit weird to go after another receiver when they've got 3 in tow. They were only losing Pokey and maybe Destin Hill. I mean, so snicker. It's fine, everybody. I snickered when I saw the tweet too, but again, Sam Spiegelman knows some things. I mean, you think they would add a fourth high school receiver?
Oh, I think they would, because they've always thought very highly of Andy Jean. I mean, if it's an elite guy that they have an elite mindset of that, hey, we can get this guy in there. Obviously, there's some little bit of rumors about Malik McClain maybe going the portal. So we don't know what Dustin Hill's actually going to do. I mean, Sam's great in Louisiana, but until I see it, I'm skeptical as hell until I see him on campus. So,
fair.
You can't really put everything into that being for sure. And then I mentioned earlier today that Goldie Lawrence didn't take his official visit. I've heard he's kind of cleaning up some academic things. Okay. So there's some options to open up of why you would want an Andy Jean. So now Goldie is still a take. Make that very clear. Is take for FSU, but he's just cleaning up some stuff, and if everything goes well, then he takes care of business, and I think he'll be a Seminole. But you still have to factor all these different situations into them possibly adding a fourth receiver, and I think with Andy Jean, I think it was just some guy they kind of liked. I don't think you'd see this pursuit, but because it's such an elite guy in their minds, I think they wanted to go for it.
All right, last one. All right, we're gonna play a little. We're gonna have a little experiment here, a little gamesmanship, if you will, Michael.
Okay.
All right, Keldrick Falk, 6'6", 243, is the edge rusher, Highland Home, Alabama. Auburn's got a new coach. It's Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze knows how to recruit kind of well. Highland Home is an hour and a half away from Auburn. It's 3.5 hours away from Tallahassee.
Yep.
I know nothing of what you're about to say. But if I had to bet, when people ask you on the chat, like, hey, who's going to be the next commitment? Who do we have to worry about flipping? I'd be the most concerned about a kid from the state of Alabama flipping to a program like Auburn with a guy like Hugh Freeze there. Am I being overreactionary? If I am, it's fine. Put me in my place.
No, you're not. I don't think you're being overreactionary because, I mean, it's happened before to FSU with Alabama kids. I would say this in three-phase. I do feel, based on the intel I have right now, that I think he sticks and he signs with FSU on Wednesday. But at the same time, it's a kid from Alabama. It's Hugh Freeze. I mean, you can do that. You can hit the Google thing and know what that means. So you're still going to be nervous. Now, FSU felt really good coming out of that visit, but it's still, we got to wait a few more days, and he's still got to sign that letter of intent. But the one thing I can say is, no matter what, even through this pursuit from Auburn to Falk, he's stayed very consistent on just how much he is with FSU. But yeah, I mean, you got every reason to be nervous for an Alabama kid in the state of Alabama that you're trying to pull in there, and got a new staff. That's always exciting. And then it's Hugh Freeze, so you got to keep your eyes to your head to the grindstone of anything could happen. But I don't think it's an overreaction. All
right. Well, we'll see. We don't have to wait too much longer, everybody. Early signing day is Wednesday, the 21st. I don't know. Are we going to do – we'll probably have to do some sort of live show, I would imagine, Michael and myself. Maybe on Tuesday. Who knows? Michael needs some rest, but he probably won't sleep. I'm sure we'll have some sort of wall-to-wall coverage on Wednesday. Be on the lookout for when we drop the schedule on that. And in the meantime, I'm sure you'll have the premium recruiting board buzzing with news.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. I think on signing day we're going to pop in on 2 different times, and we'll have some good stuff for you guys. Anytime something's happening, I'll jump in with Aslan or Tom or somebody, and we'll break it down. But certainly we'll have a lot more, leading up to signing day. And if you're looking for a good thing that's going to make you happy, waiting on Falk, there's a little drama there. But outside of that, every single commitment is expected to sign on Wednesday. So there's your good sign that, the rest of them I think are good. And I think they're going to add a few more pieces to that puzzle on Wednesday as well. So, if you're looking for something to take positive as we go away off the pod, that's what I have for you.
All right, we love it. Michael Langston, everybody, recruiting analyst for warchant.com. Thanks for the time, Michael.
You got it.
Holiday season is upon us. It's bowl season, everybody. My bookie is in the giving spirit with 12 straight days of giveaways. From odd boosts to casino chips to straight-up locks, my bookie's 12 days of giveaways is a cannot-miss promotion. Starting December 21st, ending January 1st, you can bring in the new year the right way with giveaways that can help you fill your stockings with cash this season. All you got to do is use that promo code WARCHANT when you sign up over at mybookie.ag. And you can get a bonus of up to $200 when you use that promo code. Again, the promo code WARCHANT to claim a brand new deposit bonus designed for bettors looking to cash in and cash out really quickly. We went 1 for 1 in the bowls from Friday. The bowl game we got today, we got Marshall giving 11 points to my UConn Huskies and Jim Mora Jr. I'm on the Huskies train, Corey. Give me 11 points. I'll take them. UConn.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll do the same. Okay. I'm with you. Sorry, buddy.
Okay. MyBookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT, everybody. Thanks again to Michael. Again, we'll have more recruiting stuff going on with him throughout the week over on warchant.com, so do check it out.
Like literally every week, every day, there's multiple threads up there with nuggets on the recruits. So if you're into this, and I know a lot of you are, you need to be on Warchant because you're getting, like this podcast, you get once a day in the morning. But this thing is updated 2 or 3 times a day at the least. And you can really stay up to date on all the comings and goings and the portals and the Nationals signing day that's coming up and who's going to be Florida State Seminole on Wednesday.
All right, we're getting ever closer to our bowl game, but the bowl season is kind of getting in full gear here. Nice weekend of games. Vegas, baby. I like what I saw in Vegas on Saturday, Corey. I was at the groundbreaking most of it, but I got home to see just the final half of indignity for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. What were they down? 30, what to 0 were they down? Was it 30 even? They had one opportunity to maybe go for a touchdown, save some face, go out with some pride. But they decided to kick a field goal to avoid the indignity of being shut out. Have they ever been shut out? They've never been shut out, or has it been a long time since
No, it's been like since 1988. They have the longest streak in the country. That's what it was. So I get it, man. And that's my overall point when I was watching, because I didn't watch much of that game. I was really dialed into the Jackson State North Carolina Central game. Honestly, that was a really
it was good college
enthralling
football
game. Great game. But I was keeping up, and then I was watching the Florida State basketball team, which I guess we should talk about, both of them real quick. Number one, Florida State's men lost by 14 points to St. John's, but I thought played almost as well as they could offensively. Darren Green hit 8 threes, had 30 points, and I'm such a fan of what Matthew Cleveland is becoming because they lost Cam Fletcher. They don't have Gainey. The big guys aren't very good, and they can't play him a lot. So Matthew Cleveland has been challenged, or he challenged himself to become a rebounder and to become somebody that goes and imposes his will on games, and that's what he's doing. He had 23 and 13 in that game. I think it was his 3rd straight double-double. It was a career high in points and rebounds against a really strong team and a really physical team. So after a horrible start, in my opinion, for him, for what I was expecting for him to start this season, he's really kind of turning into the player I thought he was going to be, and that's good to see. And then the women, man, I did not make Tanaya Latson the indescribably good player of the week because I just can't do it every week. But she had 24 points. They lost at UConn, but that was a true road game. That was in the Mohegan Sun, which is in Connecticut. Those fans are nuts. Connecticut's women's basketball fans are unlike any other. So it was a true road environment, a tough environment, and I thought Brooks' team played well. They hung in there. They cut it to, I think, three or 4 points with like 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and then their whole team fouled out. But Tanaya Latson had 24 points in that game. I'm saying it. She might end up being the best player in the country. Like this is unique what Florida State has here. This has never happened here before. Maybe men or women that they've had a player quite like this. So that's going to be really fun to watch her career.
Well, Ham's had
watch the rest of the season.
Ham's had some guys. He just hasn't really deployed them the way that Brooke is deploying.
I was going to say Scotty Barnes was a very good player. Obviously, his 1 year here, he was the 4th pick in the draft. He averaged like 11 points a game. Yeah. This is somebody that's dropping 24 at UConn and not even playing that well for her. Like not shooting like, was she 7 of 19? Didn't even shoot well for her and still scores 24 points and is probably the most talented, not probably, in my opinion, was the most talented player on the court. And she's playing UConn. Like, again, this is just, it's pretty incredible. So it's fun to see. But anyway, so back to the Florida thing real quick. That to me, them kicking that field goal, I got it. I understood at the moment. I know Florida State fans want to dunk on them and want to make fun of them. I get it for kicking a field goal with 20 seconds left when you're down 30-0. But the only thing that could be salvaged from that game is to keep your stupid scoring streak intact. Because it kind of would be a travesty for them to lose it on that facade of a football game. Because when you're a team like Florida, and you're playing on December 17th in Las Vegas, half your team is missing. You're playing your third-string quarterback. It makes that bowl game almost a forfeit. Like you almost should have just forfeited the thing.
Stop it.
I'm not saying I want that.
You sound like Dan Mullen, the Sugar Bowl a few years back when they got
No, that's different because that's the Sugar Bowl. But this is a bowl. It's 6. You're 6-6. There is a clip that's on social media of, I can't remember the kid's name. He's number 33. I looked him up. I know his first name is Princely, which is an awesome name. Yeah. But he's a defensive end for Florida that started a lot this year, played a lot. And there's a clip of him in that game when it's still 10-0, acting like he's at a walkthrough in a hotel ballroom. Like that that this is not a real football game. It looked like what you'd see in the Pro Bowl. And it's like, man, is this how these types of bowl games are going to be treated? Because you made them so irrelevant and the tone of college football has shifted to the point where if you're not playing for something important, you shouldn't play at all. You're either in the portal or you're off to the pros. And so Florida is left with a JV team to compete against another team that's trying for 10 wins and is trying to win. That's what it felt like to me. So I was like, man, look, I always like to see Florida lose. Always. I'm not playing a violin for the Gators, I promise you. I hope they lose.
I'm looking at that clip. My gosh.
Is that not incredible?
Gosh. You
should put it on our Twitter so people know. If they want to go to our Twitter, they can see it. You can retweet it or something. Yeah. But that to me tells you everything that's wrong with the current state of college football postseason. Because Oregon State really wanted to be there. They're playing for 10 wins. It was an important game to them. Florida did not want to be there in the least, and they had half their players were gone. And it looked like it. So I was like, this is just it'd be like losing a 470 game winning streak like that on an exhibition, which is what these games feel like. But they won't to Florida State. No. To the overall point that I was trying to make is that's what's so cool about this game coming up in Orlando to me is I think most if not all of the eligible Florida State players will be playing. Not Demore Tate though. We can get to him in a second. But that it matters to Florida State. And they are going to try. They're not going to just try when they show up in Orlando on the 29th. They're going to try the next 2 weeks in practice to get ready for that game because it matters to them. But there's other teams where it clearly doesn't matter, and it's like, what is this even for? What is Florida even doing in this game? What is the point of this? What is the point of this? That's what watching that kid on that pass rush. And just looking at the stats, and Florida had 100 yards of offense after the first quarter. I just kept asking myself, what in the world is the point of this game? And no, I don't. For Florida, there wasn't one. So.
I don't know, man. You're representing your school. You're representing yourself. I don't know, man. It's competition. I'm
yeah,
not
but
nearly
clearly
as
it didn't matter to those guys. But if you're one of the guys that stayed,
that's endemic to a locker room. That's bad stuff.
I don't know, man. It's probably, but it's also a first-year head coach, and so half the guys were, I think they have 20 guys, 15, 18, 20 guys in the portal. They've had other guys that are going pro that weren't playing. So it was just like, man, the guys that did stay, they know their best players aren't with them, and it's like that. Just the team that Florida State beat in Doak was nothing at all like the team that showed up in Las Vegas 3 weeks later. It's like, well, what is even the point of this game then? Like, can we? There's nothing to do. There's nothing. I'm not saying that you should cut off the portal or make these kids play, but there are going to be games like this where it's a travesty to the sport to watch something like that. It was like watching one team playing an NFL Week 8 game like it was the second exhibition game. That's what it felt like. One team cares. The other team is treating it like it's the second week of preseason camp. And it was just gross to watch. But how about Deion's game, man? That was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, especially if you're like really still bitterly angry at him for taking Travis Hunter away from you.
That guy, by the way, I get it. I get it. I see what people saw in the guy. It's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up.
Yeah. I guess nothing stays gold, Pony Boy. Well, they were 13-0, 12-0 going into the game.
I think it was "Stay Golden, Pony Boy" is the quote. Yeah.
Well, never mind. Yeah, they lost. I was like, I was 1 week late on my shade Deion pick when I thought they maybe would keep the SWAC championship game a little closer than they the odds makers thought it was. But it was the HBCU national championship, the Celebration Bowl, where they kind of let it slip through their fingers. Quite literally, they had a game-tying touchdown opportunity that a young man dropped. But I saw a video, I think, of Deion actually consoling him in the locker room after, so that's kind of cool. But, yeah, that's his parting gift. Maybe it's not nearly as cool as beating the Gators on Jimbo's way out of town. But I don't know if he's going to be more reviled than Jackson as Jimbo's in Tallahassee. But they played well.
I don't think so at all. I think that's a completely different situation. But the guy, and I don't know the guy that was doing the game, that was doing the color analyst for the game, but he made it pretty clear that a lot of people were cheering against Deion. Like he's like I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but he essentially said most of the HBCU world is rooting for North Carolina Central. They do not want Jackson State to win this game. I'm not sure why. Necessarily, but that was the case, and it was a really cool game, man. It was back and forth. Travis Hunter made a really impressive catch with the game on the line at his second position. He's still predominantly a cornerback, but for him to, he's just he's a freak, man. He's a freak, and I think Jackson State fans were just clearly bummed. Because when are they ever going to have a team like that again? Deion's already basically said he's bringing all the good ones with him. He's taking them all, are going to try to anyway. So that, to me, is going to be very, very interesting over the next week. Because none of those guys have been in the portal. Because they had this game to play. They had the HBCU National Championship game to play. But that's over now. So I would assume Monday morning you're going to start. I know his kids are in the portal. But that was obvious. Deion's kids were going to be in the portal. But who else from that group? Kevin Coleman, he had a long touchdown in that game. He's a former Florida State recruit, 5-star receiver. Obviously, Travis Hunter. I can't imagine. I would be. What?
Langston wrote him off. Langston actually he nudged the door open like 2 weeks ago, and then last week he slammed it shut right in my face.
No, I'm not about Florida State, but how surprised. What odds would you give me that Travis Hunter is at Jackson State next year? Is it 1,000 to 1?
Gosh, yeah.
It's got to be like that, right? At least 500 to 1.
Yeah.
It's just there's no chance. So yeah, it's I know Florida State fans are still pretty bitter about it, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not bitter about it. I'm bummed about it because I think it would have been awesome to cover somebody like Travis Hunter. I just do, and I think is he going to go to Boulder, Colorado, where they don't care all that much about football? Is it just to be with Deion? I just think. I saw the crowd for that game. That's the HBCU National Championship. The whole top deck of Mercedes-Benz was empty. Now, he's got to ask himself, he could be at Georgia right now, and they're getting ready to play in that exact same stadium 2 weeks from now. And I guarantee you there's not a seat in the house. And it's Georgia-Ohio State. It's for like the actual college football national championship. And I just think he's got to say to himself, okay, what are the chances I can play in a game that big if I go follow Deion to Colorado? And I'm not selling Florida State. I just think it's going to be fascinating to see where he ends up. Is he going to end up? He could go anywhere. Ohio State, Southern Cal, Georgia, Alabama, Florida State. I mean, they're all out there. Anybody would take him. But I would be stunned if he stays at Jackson State. I just couldn't fathom it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the conversation is, does he go to Colorado or not? That's a conversation. There's no way he's staying at Jackson State. And I don't fault him for it. I mean, you can talk about, I want to come to Florida State and change this program around. Doesn't mean you have to stay here all 4 years. You can leave early. You can go to the NFL. I know it's a little bit different. You leave after 1 year versus 3 years. But, what him and Deion did to bring so much more exposure to HBCUs, that's a real thing. I mean, I don't know, some people thought that Deion signed a blood contract, like he was never going to leave the HBCUs, and Travis Hunter was going to make sure that no five-star kid ever didn't consider, like, putting one of these schools in their top 5 and visiting. That was never, like, their sort of aim. I mean, for 1 year, man, they carried out probably a large part of their charge. I don't think they necessarily, I don't think they signed life contracts to finish out their careers at Jackson State or HBCU. So I never got too upset about that part of the equation of things. I know a lot of people did, but we can disagree.
Well, I think it was more about how it was presented and I think the counter to that is, okay, they brought a lot of attention to HBCU, but what will that attention be like next year? I don't think College Game Day is going back to Jackson. So what impact will it really have? Because Deion is his own thing.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like they went to Jackson State and Joe Smith is that. That's my go-to name now.
Good
and
name.
By the way, Joe Smith was a great college basketball player. He's number one pick in the draft.
Won
back
national
in the 90s.
title, man.
Yeah, man. Well, no, I don't think he did. He was at Maryland. He was
the one
number
year. The 1 year they won the national title. Wasn't it Joe Smith?
No, it was after him. It was Juan Dixon. He carried that team.
All right.
Hey, good memory though, man. Nice.
Better memory from you, though.
But they're not there at. They didn't go to Jackson State because Joe Smith was the coach.
Right.
They went to Jackson State because Deion was the coach. Well, now that Deion is not at an HBCU anymore, will that all the attention he brought, will it just be a 1 or 2 year blip, or will something have fundamentally changed about the way college football fans view HBCUs? I think maybe that's why the guy that was announcing the game said that he thought many HBCU fans were rooting against Jackson State, or a whole lot of the HBCU community was rooting against Jackson State, because I think they felt like Deion used them as a stepping stone. Now, all coaches do. He said some things when he took the job that, I can understand people having a problem with now in hindsight that he's moved on. But yeah, man, that's what happens with stepping stones is people feel like they got stepped on. But Jackson State was always going to be a stepping stone job. And I think all of us thought, there's no way Travis Hunter is going to be at Jackson State for 3 years with Deion, because as I was saying in August, man, if Mike Norvell struggles out of the gate and Jackson State's 12-0, which I predicted they would be, Deion would be on Florida State's radar. So we all knew that Deion was not going to be at Jackson State long, and obviously Travis Hunter, I think, knew that too. I think maybe they would have liked him for 2 years, but you got the number one player in the country for 1 year. Now let's see what HBCU's recruiting rankings are 2 years from now. You know what I mean? Did this matter at all, or was it just strictly tied to Deion? And now that Deion's at Colorado, he's going to have a resurrection for Colorado. And then when he moves on to somewhere else, it's all going to be about what Deion's bringing, not necessarily him fundamentally changing the power structure of the HBCU or Colorado University. Going to be fascinating, though, Aslan, especially because, as we found out last week, Deion can bring in 50 guys.
Yeah.
He can bring in a whole new team, and he will, because I can promise you, the way he talked to those kids in that meeting room in Boulder, there might be 7 of them left on the team by the time he's done.
One of them was actually, I think, on campus this past weekend here in Tallahassee, an offensive lineman. So there's a possibility, though, as Michael said, that he might return to Colorado, but not probable. So we'll see how that goes.
Right.
That'd be kind of cool,
Yeah.
Traded Travis Hunter for the RODDICK kid.
Sure.
Put that in your pipe, Deion.
Yeah,
All
that's right.
that's a wrap for us. We'll do at least 2 more shows this week. There's practice this morning, so do stay connected to warchant.com. Probably around a little bit after lunchtime, 12:30 or so is when things will start probably populating onto the YouTube page as well as warchant.com. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. And then, of course, the PRB is going to be going crazy with Michael posting all the stuff that's coming across his desk. And then, again, we'll do at least 2 more shows this week, Corey.
Oh, also, one last thing. Shout out to Jacoby Myers of the New England Patriots for the dumbest play in the history of sports. If you guys haven't seen it, I only bring it up because I've seen the highlight now 5 times since we've been recording this. But that is by far the dumbest play ever. And I know if you're listening to this, you probably have an idea what I'm talking about. But if you don't, just go Google New England's Patriots, Las Vegas Raiders, because that was incredible. Did you see it live, Aslan?
No, but why doesn't the guy that the running back that started, why doesn't he get blamed?
No, that's the second dumbest play ever. But he's just like he should have gone down. Like it was. They clearly were playing as if they were down by a point, instead of realizing, if I get tackled here, we can still go to overtime. We called a draw at our own 40 with 2 seconds left. We're not trying to win the game right here, clearly. But anyway, he busts off a 25-yard run, and in his head he's thinking, there's a receiver. Maybe if I get it to him, he can bust around and make it could be like the band is on the field play. But Jacoby Myers, what makes that one so crazy is who he's throwing it to. He runs backwards 10 yards and then throws it to Mac Jones, who's at his own 40. So the best possible scenario for Jacoby Myers' attempt is Mac Jones catches it, the slowest player in the NFL probably, catches it at his own 40 and only has 60 yards left to negotiate against an NFL defense to go score the game winner. Like, what was the point of it? That was what was so. And half the defense was still at its own 10-yard line. It's not like they had sucked everybody up and, if he just gets by Chandler Jones, he might score. No, but he just throws I'm curious as to how that's scored. Is that an interception for Chandler Jones, or is it a fumble recovery?
Oh, yeah,
what do you think it is?
Fumble recovery, because it's all laterals, or it's all thrown. Everything was
so
lateral.
That when you intercept a lateral, it counts as I guess it counts as a fumble recovery, even though it wasn't technically a fumble.
Well, because it wasn't a forward pass. It's only an interception if it's a forward pass.
All right, you're right. Okay.
So,
well, it's crazy though. I enjoy. I mean, I really enjoyed that.
I mean, you gotta make that tackle, Mac. Right? You got to make that tackle, man.
How about that? I can't imagine how mad he is at Jacoby Myers. Number one, for doing what he did, but also he is a meme for the rest of his life. That's like a butt fumble. That's like the butt fumble.
It's bad.
Mac Jones getting stiff-armed, like treated like a 4-year-old, like a dad trying to get to the refrigerator, screwing around with his 4-year-old, pushing him to the ground with the game on the line. Mac Jones got punked like that. And that could alter his entire future as a football player, as a quarterback, as a man. Like that could alter his entire future, all because Jacoby Myers decided to throw a 20-yard lateral. Should have made him our Zaxby's Indescribably good player for making us laugh like this.
Can I go back? Feels good for the soul.
What an eventful Sunday.
Yeah. All right, we're done. Couple more shows coming up. Warchant.com, Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. We love you guys.